right.
Well, welcome to Job Seeker Nation, streaming on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook. Welcome. Across from me is Jack Kelly. Of course, you know him as the Mad Writer, or better yet, he is a senior careers contributor for Forbes. Also, he is the founder of Recruiter.io. Hopefully, if you have not checked him out, you can also check out his Facebook groups, his lives that he's doing like every day about the future of work. So he's everywhere, and Lord knows I go to sleep with visions of him in my live stream, my dreams. Who knows how you do it, Jack?
Yeah, I don't really sleep that much, by the way. That's maybe one of the reasons. But not purposefully.
Yeah.
I think I told you, I think I mentioned to you, like one of my cats gets me up at like 4:35 every day for food. So like once I'm up, that's it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I do the late night writing myself. And of course, my name is Mark. We're going to have a guest here just a moment as soon as he comes from his appointment. But we're glad that you're able to join us. Join us in the chat. We'd love to hear from you. Say hi to us, where you're from. Give us your questions as well, because we'd love to take your questions. And of course, your questions are more important than our questions, although we're always asking a ton of them during this particular show. So here we go. So what are job seekers getting right or wrong? Just to start it off, you wrote an article today that what I thought really interesting. Well, actually not today. It was yesterday, right? You published like a couple of them, I think, if I'm not mistaken. But you just continue on about what the workplace and the future of work is going to look like.
Yeah, it's interesting. Actually, I'm really excited. Like after today, I want to start on something. So one of the themes is, the end of 9 to 5, 4-day work weeks, flexible schedules, 5-hour work days. And I think the time has come for all of this. Coming out of the pandemic, where I don't think anyone could dispute this. It was a success. It was like the biggest experiment of trying remote work. It was about 1.5 years of working remote, and it was successful. Think about it. Places like Amazon, Apple, Facebook, Microsoft just did phenomenally well. The stock market all-time highs. So people worked actually harder, I think. Did people take some time for themselves? Of course, but people worked into the night, weekends. So it worked. So my thesis is this: if this we did an experiment, and the experiment was a smashing success, remote work. So once we've shown it works, then why not try other things? To me, that makes the most sense. Like, okay, we experimented, it worked. Now let's try some other things and see how that could work as well.
Yeah, I really feel like I agree with you totally. And it was even after years of saying it won't work, and it did work. And probably under the worst circumstances.
Yeah.
And the technology is only getting better as we do it. But I think as well, there's going to be imbalance because they've made all investment in the physical aspects of it. What would actually happen then? I think in the back of companies' minds and people who own businesses and all that they're on those contracts. And I think we talked about before. But, at the same time, there are ways to, I think there are always ways to monetize it. You just have to get a little more creative on the other end. There's some companies that even made money during the time with their real estate because they rented out to other smaller businesses that were able to camp in different places and all this different types of creativity. I mean, it's there. It's just a matter of needing to go through the process.
Yeah, and to me, that's what's really exciting is that it's not like we have to settle like, oh, we've always done this way, so we got to keep doing it this way. It gives us the ability to let's try it out. And to me, I'm a big believer in you could try things. You don't have to go all in. Like, for instance, like let's say a company, you don't have to go all in on changing 9 to 5. You could take maybe one division. Let's try that one division and see what happens. And if it works, we could do another division. And you could do that with a lot of things. And then you find out what works, what doesn't work, tweak it. But at least it's worthwhile trying.
Yeah, it is worth trying. And I think that people begin to call companies bluff because when you say that you couldn't do something and then you were able to
Exactly.
do it in a hurry,
Right, right, right. Oh, it can't be
then
done. No, no, that's
you know,
crazy talk, Mark. It
yeah,
can't be done.
then everything becomes
Yeah,
everything you say
right.
becomes suspect.
Exactly.
And it does, and that's the way, and you can't help but to feel that way. And we have helping us all the way from Florida, isn't that right, Orlando?
Yes, sir. I apologize for being late. How's it
No
going?
worries. Hi,
Oh,
Orlando.
that's okay. We understand. We're all busy
Mhm.
busy around. So anything we could do to help our guests feel comfortable, we want to thank you very much for joining. If in case you don't know this gentleman, this is Haynes. Orlando, meet Jack, senior talent
Hi, Orlando.
acquisition manager at Marketopia. And he also has a live show that he hosts called Career Talks, amongst the other
Nice.
things that he does. And in
Excellent.
fact, I think you just recently, I think I saw the interview with Anna Morgan, somebody that you had as Jack, right?
Hmm. Yes.
Yeah, good deal. So we're glad that you're here.
Yeah, she's
Uh,
great.
uh,
She has so much
yeah,
information, right? Like
Hmm.
she's
mhm,
just a wealth of knowledge. And she's such a nice
yeah,
person too.
Yeah, I know Vanna for a couple of years now. We've both been in the space of recruiting and talent acquisition. So it was finally that it was good to get on the same platform and share some content. So yeah, she's amazing.
yeah, that's good. That's good stuff. So if you guys have any questions about your episode, feel free to put it in the chat. And we're streaming live to LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook. And we're going to go ahead and get this party started. Orlando, just to get a little bit of context about yourself, how long you've been a recruiter, and what kind of clients are you recruiting for, or what kind of people you're working with right now as far as your recruiting?
Yep, great question. So I've been in the talent acquisition and recruiting space for about 20 years now. First half of my career has been in staffing and agency, so working for the other side, pitching and try to partner with companies. But the latter half of my year has been all corporate experience in talent acquisition. So been in leadership for about 12 years now, leading teams. And the company I work for now is located in Pinellas Park, Florida, closer to St. Pete, within St. Pete, Florida, which is a marketing company where we do lead generation and marketing for the IT space. So all our clients and that we partner with are within the IT space, helping them, grow their revenue and be able to assist them in driving more traffic to their website. So we'll do web and graphics, social media, SEO, etc., to support their growth.
Good deal. Now, you are originally from New York City, isn't that correct?
Correct. Yeah, I am.
Which part of New York City you're from?
Yeah, right in the center of Harlem. So
Ah,
I was born and raised born in Harlem Hospital and grew
yes,
through my earlier years and then traveled through military, etc., and then
yes,
landed in Florida.
yes. I am a native of Harlem.
Awesome.
My mother still lives in Washington Heights,
Okay.
and yeah, I was born at I lived on 155th and St. Nicholas, and then moved uptown a little bit there. So
Hmm.
yeah, we share some roots there. So let's go ahead. Audience is probably getting a little bored with what we're doing and what we're saying. So first topic, we everything is surrounded by what's going on now, and there's a lot of just a lot of talk about what the future of work is going to look like and how it's going to look. But one of the things, just to kind of build a little bit of context, there was an article about the 12-hour 6-day work week, which one company suggests. It rhymes with haste. We won't say who the company is, but you can read the article. You can guess who that is. But they say the 9 to 5 model is the way to go. Work 12 hours a week. Work 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. So that's a 72-hour work week. Is that a little antiquated now? that we're trying to still struggle, whether we're working from home or we're from the office? Do you feel that's something that should be solid for young people? Or do you feel like that might be a little bit outdated? Orlando, we'll go with you first.
Yeah, that's a great question, and I haven't read the article, but I will. And I would say, with most folks looking for work-life balance, way before the pandemic hit, I think that would not be the direction to go, to mandate a 12-hour workday. And now, as you know, we look for people to join the company who's willing to put in that extra time. But to make it mandatory, I think you'll find a lot of people that'll burn out fast. A lot of job seekers who will seek companies that don't have that in place. I just don't see that being a good idea when you talk about Europe, who works less, but then America and the U.S., we're talking about increasing those hours. So that would not be an ideal situation unless you're going to dramatically increase income, to match that. But a 12-hour workday, 6 days a week, I don't see that passing well in the United States. I wouldn't think that would be a good idea.
And maybe I should qualify a little bit. This was under the guise of career advancement, saying that, and that probably might change a little bit your answer. Maybe it wouldn't, but apparently the indication is if you want to advance your career, you dedicate yourself like this. And still, some people feel a little queasy having to advance and commit your life pretty much to your work. So does that position your answer a little bit?
Yeah, I think what you're looking at now is just really, again, it would be more how efficient is that employee within their time span now. Again, I would say that if they're mandating that and saying, and again, mandating it saying, hey, this is the best path to the next level is for you to put in that time. That's not always the case. It all depends on, the type of, work and industry you're in that would afford you to work that long. Sometimes you can just get it done within a normal 8-hour shift. But I think now we're looking to work smarter, and then management, right? If you're looking to go to management, put management in place, managers are not trying to work that long as well. No one really wants to work 12 hours a day. So I think it's just how efficient are we of getting the job done, meeting deadlines, et cetera. And that's what we look for in people who can execute, not stay long just to stay long.
Yeah. Jack, what are your thoughts initially on this?
So I'm with Orlando. I see there are two parts to it as I see it. Let's just take the younger people. I would suggest to younger folks, and this what I would say to my own kids, when you're young and you have the energy and the drive, because once you get a little older and you go past your 40s and up, you don't have as much energy unless you're drinking lots and lots of coffee and things like that. So I would say when you're young, if you find a job that you like and a career you like, you really want to put in all the time and effort and do whatever it takes, because that's where you could kind of really just blow past people. Because while a lot of your peers are partying and just kicking back and what have you, if you're just hitting it, because that's going to make your life easier in the future. So like you're defraying immediate gratification for future. And it's hard for young people to get that because they want the immediate gratification right now. You want to go to that party, you want to do whatever. But I know this sounds like a fuddy-duddy thing for me to say, but I would encourage people who are younger to say, hey, you know what? You don't have to be a monk and then just work when you're out of your house, but you want to really just put put as much into it now, because then it'll pay the rewards down the future. The second part, what Orlando was talking about the 12 hours. All right, let's be honest. Come on, most people, when you're in a corporate setting, by 3:30, you're shot. You know what I mean? Like if you would graph out, right? Come on, let's be really real. Like if you would graph it out, right? How many people do you see in a corporate setting? And I'm not pointing anybody out. We're all human. I do it. Like you come in, right? And you're a little tired, and like, hey, who wants to get some coffee? Okay, I'll do the coffee run. And you go, and you're in a big skyscraper. So the time you go down in the elevator, you go to Starbucks, wait in line, come back up. Now it's like 10 o'clock. And then before you know it, you're talking about, hey, what do you guys want to do for lunch? And you're going for lunch. And then by 3:30, you're tired. By 4 o'clock, most people are kind of zoning out. So it's the diminishing returns. It doesn't make sense. So you're stuck in this cubicle with fluorescent lights. Half the people next to you think it's too cold, half it's too hot. You know, you're smelling somebody's lunch that they're eating. It's ridiculous. So I would say, and dude, I gotta tell you guys, I've never spoken this way. I've always, because you know, I'm a Gen Xer, and I just grew up knowing and seeing like the baby boomers in front of me. This is what you got to do. I didn't even think anything like, I'd never even dreamed to be an alternative. It never even occurred to me, right? So I have such a diametrically opposed view now than I had back then, because now I realize a lot of this is all BS. Like it's from middle managers so they could kind of say, have something to do. But if you could go in, I think Orlando, you touched on it, is that, hey, if you could get your job done in a certain time frame, that's it. Why force you to sit there till 5 o'clock and we're all counting down? You know, you're looking, okay, is it time yet? Is it time? Just, okay, I'm done. It's 3:30. I'm done. I'm going to go home, see my family, see my kids, you know, and then you're going to come back refreshed, and you probably do a great job the next day.
Now, here's a wrinkle. Here's a wrinkle in Orlando. You can respond to this again. People, I think young people have found out in the last 10 years, particularly, as I've been watching, a lot of them are not just, they're not getting their career advancement through one company. They're getting their career advancement by moving around.
Yes.
So every time they're they're moving up, and not necessarily to a job to where they're working harder, maybe to a job that's working more smarter. There are a few who've been talking to their friends about who is really doing what they want to do as far as a lifestyle. They're looking at them and say, how did you get that job and how did you get those opportunities? And they're using that intel to advance their career. So really the fact that you're going to stay stationary in one company and work your butt off for 12 hours a day is kind of being tone deaf to what the current climate is and how people are actually moving around, getting advances, not just from position, but from salary as well. Orlando?
You're correct on that. And I would tell you, like the younger generation also, right, they're looking for more purpose, social conscious, you know, connection with the organization. We're still in that phase for them to be thinking that way. So it will just never work, in my opinion, to tell someone, hey, this is the standard that we have here if you're looking to grow. Within 30 days, they're going to be looking to exit that organization. Like, this is not the lifestyle I'm pursuing right now. That's antiquated. My parents, my grandparents. This is a whole new generation. They're looking for, again, what's going to impact life, them on a social level, and still kind of have that work-life balance. But what is the average now? Maybe 2.5 years, maybe 3 years with an organization before they transition for the next level. And I think that pace will continue to go just because there's so many things. Technology moves fast. So you have to skill up with your skill set. And just the next phase will be, if that company next door is offering me 10, 15 grand more, it's time for me to make a leap, right?
Right. And it's not that hard to get 15% raises as you move along the company. It's pretty standard, and it's pretty, that almost takes no negotiating skills in a lot of ways. But of course, you could reach those six figures in 4 or 5 moves, especially if you're a young person. And if you're knowing that these companies are also working from home now. Are you kidding me? Jack, your thoughts?
Yeah, I've seen it firsthand. And it's interesting because I've been doing it so long, but sticking in a certain niche that, to give you a real life example, there's this dude who about, let's say 15 years ago, he was doing this road warrior job in compliance where you go to different branches and you do exams. And at first it's always glamorous because you're going, you know, hey, I'm in LA, I'm San Fran, I'm in Chicago. But then after a while, it's hotel, you know, airport, hotel, you know, office, back, and it just gets a grind. So he desperately wanted out. I got him a job at an asset management division at a big bank. And at the time, maybe it was like 70,000, 80,000. Swear to God, I'm not making this up. I spoke to him about a couple of weeks ago about a new job. He's making like 500,000 now. Because what happens is this. What happens is this area, like I was in, for a while, for years, it was like super hot. So somebody, this is what you guys were just talking about. So what happens is this: you get a guy like him, right? he's at, let's just round it up, 100. Let's say he's at 100. Then you get a 50, after 2 years you go and now you're 120. Then you move again and then you get another 20%. So let's say you're at, 150, 160. And then, you do that for a few times. And before you know it, it starts getting big. And the unfortunate part is people who have that loyalty discount, the people who just stay where they are and feel like, oh, this is what I should be doing. Then they keep falling behind because they'll get maybe a 1% raise. And so the person that keeps moving keeps getting that compensation. Now, this guy might be an aberration, obviously, in terms of, how much.
Yeah, it's an anomaly.
But if you move every 2-3 years and you can get 15, 20%, that's huge. It
Sure
really,
is.
it makes a monster difference.
It's like compound interest.
Exactly. It's compound interest. Like Mark was talking about real estate, in terms of how like you build equity, just same like in your career. Yeah. It's like building, compound interest by keep moving. Yeah. And the Gen Zs, Orlando, you're right, dude. Like everything I see about Gen Zs, I respect them greatly because I think they've looked at us, looked at their parents and look at all they had to do. And they're like, you guys are nuts. You wake up at 5 a.m, 6 a.m, schlep into like Chicago or St. Pete, all this traffic, come home tired and cranky, and then you get laid off. That's dumb. So they're like, heck with this. I think they've learned at an early age. This is all BS. I'm going to just go. I'm going to learn. I'm going to learn everything I can. When I'm done learning, I have a whole bunch of new people I've met. I build up a network. I'm moving on to the next one and so on because I'm not going to depend on this company that I've seen, I see what happened to my parents and my parents' friends. I'm going to kind of just make my own way. So I think these younger generations, it's going to be way different and good for them, good for them.
Yep. And sometimes you got to watch where this advice comes from and look at their MO. I mean, like I said, I'm not going to put it out there who Haynes really is, but they have a reputation for getting some things wrong, not only getting some things wrong as far as the nature of people, but actually on how they business. And, it's like, do you like the guy that is efficient, who shoots, who can shoot 90% from the free throw? Or do you find the guy that shoots 75, but he gets more attempts? I mean, it's kind of hard to say that, it's better if you work longer and more just for optics. And to me, that's all it is that we want to see, you sweat. It's like the Stone Age. And it's just gotten a little ridiculous. And any thoughts, Orlando, on this before you go on?
You know what? On your point, Mark, I used to give advice. You're gonna laugh at me. This goes back, way past COVID, saying to people like, all right, so if you kind of leave your office, you leave your jacket on the back, leave like a cup of coffee open and unwrap food. So your boss will always think you're there. You're just like in the bathroom or something to show you're working. What a difference, right? And that's example what you're talking about, Mark, is like, it's the difference between working, being productive, getting a job done, and just feeling you have to show your boss, look, I'm here in the office physically, whether I'm productive or not, I'm here. So yeah, I get kudos for just showing up. It doesn't matter if I'm being productive.
Yeah, exactly. The middle manager has to monitor all of this work, and therefore you got somebody on your staff working 72 hours. Can you imagine what that middle manager is? And by the way, they too are under because they'd rather be working at home too. Instead, they've got to come and watch the junior associate do his thing and put in his time. It's a dangerous cycle. Any other thoughts, Orlando, before we move on?
Yeah, and speaking with the company that rhymes with, Pace, they have to understand that they're assuming that this younger generation has to do a 9 to 5. They're content creators, they're YouTubers, they're all these things where they can generate a much faster income with little to no education. So they don't necessarily have to enter the workforce. So, but by that model, you're now driving your funnel to be super minute in trying to attract talent. And that's not the goal.
No, it sure isn't. So we'll be watching that as that progresses. I know that we'll hear more from that company and other companies that we've heard of. I don't want to go into the other company that sounds like Hell's Largo, but there's some people putting a lot of things out there that I think I mean, it reeks of 1970s, 1980s. Second topic. I'm just going to sit back and let you guys talk in this particular one, but I think this is pretty important because recruiters are a great resource of knowledge on how to get a job. If anything, just follow one and watch them talk about the job market and talk about the people they serve and all that. From your point of view, what is the one thing you wish job seekers would do more of or do to stand out? For you, what works, what fails? Jack, why don't you go ahead?
So for me, selfishly, it's much better when they're so clear in terms of who they are, what they're doing, their responsibilities. So let's say I'm on LinkedIn, where I can look at it and I don't have to try to decipher anything. It just jumps out like a big flag. Hey, I do, X, Y, Z, and so on. I'm like, yes, this person is perfect. And then maybe even if there's something on their LinkedIn posts that gives me a feel for what they want to do next, that is great, because then I know, oh, okay, this is a person who is sending me these signals that they're open to looking at a new opportunity. I get what they want to do. And then it makes it much easier to contact, as opposed to when you look at some of these LinkedIn profiles or even a resume that's very bare bones and you're not sure what they do and you have to try to figure it out and you're spending too much time trying to it's just easier to go next, move on.
Yeah.
So thinking for you and make it real plain in what you do, how you add value.
Exactly.
Okay. Orlando?
Yeah, I would absolutely jump on the back of Jack on that, because the first thing they have to do is have that absolute clarity in what focus, because I think the misconception is that we find people jobs. That's not what recruiters do. We find the people for the jobs we already have. So it's not for a job seeker to come up to us and say, okay, I'm trying to figure out what I want to do. What do you think my skills will fit best? That's not what we do. We're very quick and fast paced. But the other thing is that they should have a better understanding as to where they want to take their experience. Just like Jack said, especially on the LinkedIn platform, leverage that, grow their network, be active on the platform, and just have absolute clarity. It makes it easier for us.
I'm with you, right? It just makes life so much easier.
Yeah. But, Jack, I looked up clarity, just the word clarity. Actually, I tried, whatever happened to Orlando, he'll be back. I tried to look up career coach clarity. There are thousands of coaches who are career clarity coaches, and I'm not downing people doing that. I'm not downing people doing that and putting clarity in their career coaching as sort of.
Wait, we just spoke to someone last week about that.
Ebony Joyce back last week, who was a career. Lisa Lewis Miller, who's also a clarity coach. But all of that to say is that is kind of what the most important element is, though, because it really, to me, it comes down to two questions. What do you want to do? Where you want to do it? Yeah. If you can answer those two questions, you can actually zoom forward to the near the front of the line. But the other part is most people don't really get all that clear. They get, I mean, the more focused you are and more focused your job search is, the more that you're able to stand out. Jack?
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. Because it's very frustrating when you speak to someone and they're all over the map. I'm not sure what to do. I want to do this. As Orlando was saying, sometimes they don't understand, like, okay, my job isn't to be your therapist and to get you a job. It's like, okay, I have this job order. I'm trying to find someone who fits. And then if someone is just all over the place, it's bad for everybody. And for those kind of folks, I would encourage them that before you go on your search, And I think Ebony was talking about that. Just really kind of map out what you want to do, what your goals are, what kind of job, what kind of role, what kind of compensation, and so on. So this way, when you go and you speak to someone like Orlando, you could kind of say, hey, here's what I'm looking to do. Here's what I want. Now, maybe he has a job for you or not, but at least you're all on the same page and you have, a reasonable, productive conversation.
Exactly.
Yep. And important. And I take a lot of my coaching clues as have actually a certificate in personal training. It's been about 10 years and I got lost in the career world. So I didn't practice it long. But one of the main things, nobody comes to a personal trainer and says, just train me. I don't have any particular goals. Just train me, make me sweat. And, a personal trainer worth his weight is not going to invest any time in that kind of that. But that's where people are, is that they want help without any direction. And they just know that they want a job or they want the job. And even if you know what kind of job you want, you still have to have a sense of what that's going to look like for you.
Yeah, that's and one of the things I would share with folks too is that job seekers, they should pivot their mindset and not think like job seekers, but have a business type strategy. If you think you're growing a business, right, they have a marketing strategy on how to target their specific avatar and clients, right? I think job seekers should do the same, be really strategic, because we're planning weddings, we'll plan trips, we're planning date night, we're planning all these things, but we're not planning our career. And it's the career that funds our lifestyle. So it's odd for me and strange when I hear folks who are not clear in knowing what direction they want to go, but they have all these additional plans. And I'm like, how are you going to fund that and do all these things you want to do? So if they would start to think more like business owners and CEOs of their career, it become more strategic, knowing what types of companies you want to go after, and then learning how to leverage LinkedIn. You have a more targeted search and being really intent on what you want to do. Build a team, build an advisory career job search team around you with a few recruiters, maybe a career coach, a resume writer. Again, you have a collective team that can guide you through your search, and it can collapse the time for you if you're really intentional in directing what you want to do.
Yep. Jack, you want to add on to that?
Yeah, this is a little bit of a tangent, and I'd be curious what you think, Orlando. Is that sometimes for me, it gets frustrating because you'll meet with a very smart, motivated candidate who, let's say they're doing A, but they want to do B, and oftentimes you kind of know in your heart, this guy could do it. He or she can do it, because it's not, the job isn't really brain surgery. And if someone is smart, motivated, they could do it. But then the companies, at least when I deal with it, I'm not faulting them because they know they need this. So here's their list of 12 ingredients. And it's hard to think outside the box. So you don't have those 12 ingredients and you pass. And then the job seeker is left like frustrated. It's not fair. And you kind of know it's not fair because the way it's set up, there's not a lot of, and you guys mentioned about upskilling. There's not a lot of upskilling. There's not a lot of training. So it's like, okay, you have to hit the ground running day one. And it's tough. And that's kind of with clarity too, because sometimes people are like, oh, wow, I want to try this. I want to try that. And I can't blame them because, you do something for 5-10 years. And you're like, okay, what next? It sounds like you were in the Army, what you mentioned, what Mark said about your bio, or you said about your bio. So then there was a time where you say, okay, I want to do something different. Let me go into the civilian life and then let me go somewhere else. And how bad would it be? Like, I want to go into civilian life and go, oh no, you're in the Army. You can only be an Army man. It would be like, what? It doesn't make any sense. My skills transfer over. I could do something else, and that's a weird kind of thing with recruiting. It's a weird, dynamic for both the candidate and for the recruiter.
Exactly. And I would add to that, where it comes to the recruiter is where they have to, once they're doing that initial intake meeting to find out all the list of skill sets that person needs to have, that's kind of the wish list. And then they need to drill down. We need to drill down even more and say, what are your non-negotiables and what are some areas in which we can train? Because that person can be missing their trainable skill sets and have the non-negotiables. And if we have recruiters and be more consultative in that approach and not just order takers, but really be partners, just like you have HR business partners, we are recruiter business partners. So we have to be able to take a stance and speak back to the management team and whoever the hiring manager is like, hey, I'm super confident that he or she can execute based on what you're looking for, their background. We discussed this. Here are some areas that you said you were willing to train. That's the area you need to focus on because they're bringing the rest to the table. Let's close this out. They're within pay scale with all the other things. And let's get this gap filled so we can move forward. Yeah. So recruiters just have to kind of think more again as a business partner and not an order taker.
So that's good, Orlando. So it sounds like where you are, management would be open-minded.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. Yeah, you don't see that all the time. So that's great.
Yeah,
that's a good management team.
Messaging that we often see is from job seekers having gathered that amount of intel, just trying to find out what the employer wants and meeting that particular need is coming down to the bottom line for most of part of it. And the way you stand out the company is the most important thing, not where it stands out in general, because it's kind of hard to do that. You've got to focus so much on the employer and get enough information that you know exactly what will catch their attention. And one of the things I learned as a personal trainer, and I think it kind of applies here, is as well is that before you start training clients and you start looking at and try to prescribe what kind of program they need, you got to do some kind of assessment to see where, not just where the strengths are, but you want to help the weaknesses become strengths, because the more you do that, the more you're able to help them do in other words, if somebody has a knee problem and you see them, you're not going to prescribe squats. That's just not going to be the smarter thing. And it really doesn't take much of a personal perspective to get that something not going to train it. But there are ways to train around that and train around it to the point to where they help strengthen that particular part. And I think a lot of times job seekers, they don't assess themselves enough and deep enough and specific enough to where they can see that they're not getting any attention from a recruiter or an employer, that perhaps they could go back and strengthen some things around their weaknesses so they can know and meet the employer's need and meet what the recruit need. So for you guys, it's all about focus and just understanding need and what will catch the attention of the employer, because you're working for somebody, so you're not just making something up, right?
Yeah. Hey, Mark, I'm curious about this. Have you noticed?
We lost your ear. We can't hear you anymore. Yeah, we lost you. I don't know.
It was really good too, Jack.
Yeah, that was great. I'll go to a comment. Simone brings up a good point here. Business part relationships is correct, Orlando. Many job seekers, recruiters need job favors, not partnerships. Many recruiters lowball great candidates. Do you have a response to that?
So when it comes to, I'll tackle specifically lowballing candidates,
Okay.
right? There's everything budget. No, still can't
hear you, Jack. Go ahead, Orlando.
So every company has a budget in which they need to be within. So if you look at it this way, if we brought everyone at the peak of the budget, there's little room for performance increase in that organization. So again, it is a business first. You have to understand how the business operates going forward. So no different than you being a consumer, you going into a store and you're saying you're trying to negotiate a price on a car or something like that, right? You don't always want to pay the full price, right? You want to try to get as much off as you can. And that may sound like a strange analogy, But from a business aspect, you want to bring someone in where they're comfortable, let them perform, and then give us room for a performance increase down the line. Because it's a gamble anytime you bring someone through the doors, but you have to be mindful it is still a business, operational costs, etc.
Yeah, it's the ideal world would be that salaries are posted with the job description.
You can do that as well. And you be careful with that too, because everyone's going to ask for the higher rate, right? Everyone's just going to come in, like specifically New York. New York laws have changed to where you can't ask previous salary. So someone could look good on paper, interview well, and jump 40 grand in an interview, and they've never had the track record of growth. And just because legally you're not allowed to ask. Florida, you still can, but you want to be mindful of throwing the range out there. A lot of companies do that, but for the most part, we will still assess your skill set based on that compensation and where we think you'll be a good fit. Because guaranteed, most folks, 95 to 98% of the time, they're going to ask for the higher amount, obviously.
Yeah, comment from Emily. Hopefully, I said your version of Emily. Emily, thank you for. She says employer need to improve their roles, and I guess speaking to Jack, are you able? Can we hear you yet? Still can't hear you. Oh man, because I would love your take on this.
Okay,
there you go. There you are.
Okay, all right.
Whatever
cool.
you did here.
All right.
If you heard all last comment, if you could take it into Emily says employer and recruiter need to improve their skills, and I think what they're speaking about is that we've got some folks that interview and assess pretty lousily on the other end as well. Not just the job seeker interviewing and presenting themselves lousy, but also the recruiter and the employer too. I believe that's right, Emily, right? So response to that?
Yeah, it's a team effort if you really think about it. So, the job seeker, as we talked about, wants to have some clarity what they want to do next and fit for the role. A good recruiter should be able to kind of draw out all the attributes they have, which makes them really good for the job. Or if they don't, to be able to have a good bedside manner and explain to the candidate why you may or may not be a good fit so that there's no hard feelings. And then also give a little bit, manage their expectations so they don't feel like they're getting blown off or disrespected, so that you can kind of share, hey, because I have these conversations with Linda, you probably do all the time. It's like, hey, you're a great candidate. I just don't have a job for you right now. That's just, I'm prisoner of what jobs are given to me. And if I don't have it, there's not much I could do. And I think a failing within the recruiting industry is people it doesn't take a lot of time just to kind of explain it. So this way, it's the difference between a candidate just feeling like they've been given the brush off, or like, all right, it kind of stinks that Orlando and Jack didn't have a job for me, but I respect that they were open and honest that they didn't have a job, and okay, maybe next time.
Yep.
So I think I think internally with the companies, they have to be clear, they have to be clear. Are they really going to hire? Are they not going to hire? Are they just fishing? Do they have an internal that they really want to go with? And they're just kind of, wasting everyone's time to say, all right, maybe there's someone better, and we're going to just keep interviewing just in case there's someone better, but we're going to go with that internal. Or they don't give all the right information out, so that they're just going and interviewing and without any end in sight. Yeah. So I think it takes all these players to really try to really do their best.
Yep.
Well, the recent trend now we've been talking about for a couple of weeks is that they're interviewing, you had a client yourself, Jack, that interviewed 14 times with one company. I mean, it's really insane. So when I hear that, I'm going, well, you warn the candidate out by the time that you get to the last interview. You've exhausted him, and he's going to, you've wasted a lot of money. Should he say, no, that's all right. I've got this other company I'm interviewing well, too. I mean, the choices. So, the one with the money is going to be the one that ultimately is right, but to whose expense is going to be. Huh?
Yeah, it's a good point, because, like you said, if the interview process is elongated 14 times. That's insane. Did that person even get the job, Jack? Or
Oh yeah, they did actually. So that's good. So it's at least the endurance paid off. It's when it doesn't, that's where it's, oh
yeah,
my God. Oh my God. And you know what too? You probably see that with your people, like, and then if it doesn't work out, and then it's like almost it's a bad hit for the company, because then they're going to tell all their friends and coworkers, like, don't ever interview there. They're just going to waste your time and energy, and it's not a good look. It's like bad public relations.
yeah, it's tough. Especially if there's multiple layers to the interview process, multiple managers scheduling the meeting. But again, you would hope a lot of that stuff is ironed out in the beginning.
Yeah.
To know it's going to be a 1-step, 2-step, 3-step process, decision made immediately after that, debriefs with all the managers, etc. But yeah, I forgot, I seen the post on LinkedIn where someone said the same thing, similar to where they've interviewed 8 or 9 times with the organization. But at that point, especially if it's a quality candidate, you will lose them. Some folks are pulling the trigger, offers are being made to mid to 7 senior people on the spot because they know that pool of excellence at that level or whatever level they're looking for can be thin. And they, the market has shifted to where now it is a job seekers market. They can go and have multiple interviews within a day or time frame and get multiple offers. And now they're weighing their options way more than employers in previous to COVID. So it's tricky. I think companies have to be aware and know, like, if they can get an interview, make it a full day interview, and they assess that candidate as quick as possible, 2 or 3 of the top best within a 2-week time period, make a decision super fast, or if you can do it within a week. I mean, be flexible to get these candidates to work that are really looking to work and have the skill sets they're looking for.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Unless they're all remote, and then they have to interview from different. I mean, still, a panel interview at a time is not a bad situation. Jack?
Yeah. I'm not necessarily opposed to a lot of interviews because sometimes that's beneficial. Yeah. Because if you have a candidate, and you could probably see it where you are, Orlando, if you I get to meet Mark, Orlando, Amelia, Joan, John, Rodney, whoever else, that then I start as a candidate, I'm like getting a really good vibe of the corporate culture, the people I'm working with. And then it could go either way. It could be like, wow, I really like these people. And the more you interview, the more you get invested with the process and the more you really want the job. Or after meeting a few people, you're like, well, I liked Mark and Orlando, but then I got to work with these people and I don't like them. They're kind of jerks. So in a way, if you could handle it well, like Mark mentioned, like, okay, maybe you have a panel where you just do 5 at once, and then maybe you could do a couple more. So you streamline it so you're not wasting much time. But I think there is value by having a lot of interviews, but meaningful interviews, not just like because you're scared to make a decision. Like hiring managers, like afraid to make a decision, so they just elongate it. But if you really do it, then I find out a person's going to really go in with their eyes open. Like, okay, I get the culture, I get the people, I understand it. Yeah, I'm in. Or they're like, you know what? I've met enough people. It's just not right for me, which is good because this way they avoided a problem because they realized, you know what? I'm not going to be a fit with these folks. I met enough of them to make an intelligent decision. Yes, I invested a lot of time, but you know what? I'm better off wasting time now than spending 2 years there and just being unhappy.
Exactly.
Yeah, I can see where in some cases there might be, not often, where you meet a lot of the team. But if you have 14 separate interviews or even 10, let's even go short, 10, and you individually meet with these individuals, one, it totally puts the job seeker at a disadvantage because one, you remember everybody's name and you got to remember to do your due diligence with everybody. You want to send a thank you card or thank you email all 10 people and you find what all 10 people said, and at some point there needs to be how this intel all come together. Well, what if it doesn't? I mean, people do in 10 different positions, you 10 different perspectives. Who remembers that? Even if you have a great memory.
As you're talking, I'm thinking about this, Orlando. What do you think? It's almost like sometimes, and I don't know if we talked about this, Mark, in the past, where you see these people, they're great at interviewing and get the jobs because they're great at interviewing, but they're not great at keeping their jobs. So it's this really inverse thing. So So having all those interviews actually probably benefits the person who sucks at the job, but is really a people person and a schmoozer. We all know people like that. You know what I mean? Like you meet them and within 2 minutes, like wow, I like this person. This person's great. And they're able to sell themselves, get the job. But then when they do the job, they're terrible at it. But the ones who are good, who have to do 11 interviews, they probably peter out and aren't so good and don't get hired. So it probably gets the exact opposite of what they want to achieve, right? So there's like this perverse way of, by doing this, it just probably backfires.
Ways, I don't think that separate interviews that you're going to bring this energy in time.
That's hard, right? 10 times to bring it up. Hey, how you doing? Yeah, glad to meet you. 10 times like Groundhog's Day. Okay. Oh, here we are again.
Get past those diligent gatekeepers. You always got the people on the team, the gatekeepers. Like, I went through this, so must they, and it really
it's like hazing, right? It's like they're hazing to get in the fraternity.
I've used that analogy last week. I said this is corporate hazing.
It is corporate hazing.
It's corporate hazing is what it is.
I didn't think of it until like right now. Like
right.
It's hazing.
You go a process because you went through it, and the same scrutiny.
Right. So you got to do it
with the different technology, and people are learning different ways, and they're getting the degree probably wasn't even called the same when they graduated. But all to say, and I know we can wrap this up, and we probably can go on about this, and we have to have one. We have to. I think that really, I think that companies need to take, because before the 3 to 4, interview process worked. Then who got the bright ideas? Let's put them through 10 interviews. Okay. And I actually have somebody who actually was in one of my groups once upon a time, wrote me, by the way, I interviewed 10 times. I didn't get the job, but they sent me $100. It's like, really? I mean, it's like, where do we get this from? Where do people make up these things? And that's why I'm saying some things have a rhyme or reason. It's fine if you put them through 10 interviews, but it needs to be clear why you're putting them through interviews. At least let the candidate know, okay, these are 10 interviews. This is the science behind it. Now you want to use data, but nevertheless, it is what it is. So
it gets so bad. It gets so bad, Mark. I would advise people, right, to say, bring in like a snack, bring in some water, bring in like a power, like a Gatorade, because you're going to have back to back to back, and you're going to be wiped out. And so it's like, all right, you got to be prepared.
But I think a lunch could be a panel interview.
Yeah.
I think a very legitimate way of doing it. I think if you took them out on the floor for part of the day, and let them maybe hear, and it's business part of an interview. But why you want to have them go through 10 sit down, 14 sit down, one-on-one, and let it, Lord, let it be this.
If you took them out for 10 dinners, it wouldn't happen. Right. Here's my invoice for taking out this candidate for 10 steak dinners. Like, what? No more interviews. One interview. That's it, guys. Change overnight.
You drank and ate too much. We don't need you. But I that would be at least let there be the reason. It is awesome what we're saying. Orlando, you've got to run, and we probably want to cut it off at the top of the hour. Is there anything you got coming up? Is there a career talk episode that we need to tune in to next?
Well, I appreciate that, Anthony and Jack. So every Tuesday night, try to bring on a new guest, and I'm absolutely going to have you gentlemen on so we can continue this conversation.
Right, absolutely, love to.
Absolutely. Let's get you on this month, if not early in August. August is next month, so let's get you on. We can continue this talk.
Okay, absolutely. That'll be awesome. Thank you. Well, I'm there. I'm in. Excellent. All right, great. Well, it's nice meeting you, Orlando.
You
take care, Mark.
Jack, before you leave, tell the people, you got anything coming up on the future of work or a podcast or anything that you're working on?
Right, just like I got job schmoozers. That's maybe we should go with that. Maybe we should call it that. It's a Job Seeker Nation, job schmoozers. I like that. That's definitely original. Whoever, I don't know who put it, but I love it. That's great.
Yeah, that was Simone. Simone is in
Simone.
there. Thanks, Simone.
Thank you,
You
Simone. That's
did
so
that.
cool. Schmoozer.
Right.
I love that kind of word, schmoozer. Some
Yes,
words are just so
right.
fun to say.
That's what it is.
Yeah. So how about you? What do you
Anything you got going on?
Yeah, just just doing the recruiting.
Mhm.
I'm working out I made it earlier, the future of work at 12. So
Okay.
this way it doesn't interfere. So I don't have to bolt out here.
Beautiful.
And
Beautiful thing.
yeah. And then I'm
Yeah.
hopefully to just take some time for the summer.
Yeah. Yep. And just to let you know, and I was going to ask you in private, but there's no need. I need to have you back on probably the first 1 or 2 episodes of the Voice of Job Seekers podcast. So we'll have to plan that out.
Cool.
Even love to have you, and of
Okay,
course
cool.
to talk more about the future of work.
Okay.
So need to get you in there
Yeah.
at some point soon.
Yeah.
I'll be releasing those September 12th.
Nice.
By the way.
All right.
First one.
Awesome.
I'll be back. 20 episodes only now. Last year was about 22, 23. I've decided at this particular point, I'm not trying to run for president. I'm not going to have 1 million downloads anytime real soon. So, it will be good enough for me between all that and writing. Everything else I do will be it. You didn't catch me on the Who You Know show, video web show. You can go hit up my personal channel on YouTube, or you can catch it in my stream if you go follow my posts. If there's nothing else, Jack, we're going to have to
Excellent.
this off. Thank you very much for joining us.
All right.
Job Seeker Nation.
Schmoozers.
Hal Elliott. He's going to be fantastic.
Awesome.
So I'm looking forward to that. Thank you so much. Thank you, Simone, Emily.
Excellent.
And take care.
Take care. Take care, everyone. Bye.